the purpose of life, or one of the purposes of life, is self-edification. Just working on yourself to achieve a better version of yourself. Why would you say that that is the purpose?
Well, I think everybody chooses. It's a good question. Why? I think people choose, like, what is the goal of life? What do I want to accomplish with this life? They put a bumper sticker on their car that says something like, whoever dies with the most toys wins, or life's a beach, or things like that. For me, I self-introspection always sort of resonated with me. That life has a reason why we're here. And I feel like spiritual paths have a lot in common in that regard, that we are not here necessarily just to have fun. I mean, fun comes and goes. Fun is sometimes in your lap and sometimes very far away. If that's your philosophy on life, I have felt like, you know what, that isn't a home run per se, because a lot of people don't have a lot of fun. And then what? You're stuck with 50% of a life that sucks. And the more I studied my spiritual path, the more I realized, like, actually a better way to view life is here for growing. And growing, we get at opportunities. We get it when, all opportunities, we get it when the economy sucks or when the economy is great, when your love life is great or if your love life sucks, if your personal finances are not so together, if you're very capable with your personal finances, whatever it is, I'm firmly fixed that I'm here to evolve. And that's what I'd like to do in this life. That was the pursuit. That was, I think, the initial reason why I felt such a push to start that band, Youth of Today, because I felt like it was a band about trying to evolve yourself more than even it was about straight edge. Now, people don't get this, but to me, straight edge was like a stepping stone for evolution, personal evolution. And that's why I never felt like I've achieved it. I've hit this nirvana now that I've given up alcohol and intoxication. I thought those were great things, but I felt like it was a threshold to something greater. And from there, I sort of like began my spiritual quest. And I still sort of feel the same way. I still feel like I'm on the same track I've always been on. It's just now like 35 years down the line in that regard.
Yeah, and you talk about how the yogic path is one of putting the microscope on the self and just constant self-analyzation, and to stray away from drugs and alcohol and any of that stuff, which made you, straight edge and all that. You had to have been putting the microscope on yourself in some sort of way, even at the early age of, how old were you when you went straight edge?
16.
At the early age of 16, why did you?
I don't know. I don't know why, man. I have no idea. To me, it's sort of like I was sort of punk, and I wasn't like, when I was 16, I wasn't part of a bigger punk collective, really. I was just like a kid who wanted to do things different. And to me, like giving into the tobacco industry, giving into like intoxicants, like all these kids are doing in school, I was like, I don't want to be like that. There's got to be something more to life than just that. And it didn't seem so clever. It seemed like, we've been given this body. The body is a gift, and we're just like screwing with it. Why would we do that? Why would you wreck a gift? So for me, I got into health and healthy living at a young age, and it didn't make any rational sense to me. So Youth of Today was born from that desire, like this, we're here to grow, we're here to have a clean life, an introspective life, do good things in this world. I don't know why that came to me, but that's what it came to. And then it just kept on evolving from there.
Yeah. But like at an age of 16, I can only imagine that you're like pretty much isolated from kids in that age group, because at that age, especially like in the 80s and 90s, like everybody's into all that, just partying, living in the moment, toxifying their bodies, their minds.
And they really want to be loved and accepted. That's probably the underlying desire. Mm-hmm. But I had a very big high school. I grew up in Connecticut. And so that was the standard.
Yeah.
But I found a few freaks like myself, and we got into punk, and we somehow used punk as a way to sort of see, yeah, punk is different. We're not like those guys. Then when I got deeper into punk, I realized, no, punk's worse.
Yeah.
All these guys are the worst drugs, worst types of intoxication. They'll drink all night. And so then, then I heard the song Minor Threat, and I was like, oh, that's actually what I am. I'm actually straight edge. I don't want to be like those people. I was believing that this whole time, and then they coined that phrase. And so I just always just called myself straight edge from then on.
When did you go vegetarian?
And then as I always had sympathy for the idea of vegetarianism, and it was very, very peculiar thing there in the 80s, in the early 80s, which is hard to believe now because it's actually in the public conversation. Yeah. Like you can go to get a vegan, I don't know if it's vegan or not, but pretty vegan burger from Burger King. It's actually unbelievable. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't in the conversation. There was not health food stores. There was not veggie burgers. There was not anything back then. Mm-hmm. It was just a free-for-all. And you buy some random book or get a random book at a library. There was not a big movement. If it was very underground. So I just came to this idea that how can we live a life where we love animals, but we also slaughter them? It seemed like and it seems like everybody will say, oh, I love animals. I think they're great. But then why would we actually all of a sudden depersonalize my dog? Yeah. And when I see a cow and just say, okay, this cow, this has no soul. This has no idea of self. This is a thing. This is a commodity. And this dog is my best friend. Mm-hmm. It almost like you're creating like a sociopath's mind. Yeah. And I got that intuition at a young age. And then I got interested in like yoga philosophy. And I got a Krishna book called The Higher Taste. And it explained ethical reasons, moral reasons, spiritual reasons, health reasons, why vegetarian options are a good choice. And I thought, yeah, that makes sense to me. That makes a lot of sense to me. That actually is answering all these questions I had. It doesn't make sense what they're doing. It's creating almost a type of internal duplicity. So, but there was not like a support group. Was not like Friends of Animals or vegan youth. Yeah, it was very peculiar, and I didn't know anybody that was a vegetarian at all. But I thought, you know what? When I move out of my parents' house, I'll learn how to cook, and I will, become a vegetarian. And so when I turned 18, that's when I started.
Yeah, I mean,
it wasn't easy it's not because I didn't like meat. I just felt it was ethically inappropriate. If we're singing about changing the world and ending wars and being compassionate, I don't have to go very far. I can just look at myself. Oh man, you're incompassionate. You're not being compassionate right now.
So you're saying that this happened at such a young age. Do you believe that this all happened for a reason, that you were destined to follow this path in life, that you were given this consciousness to like feel sympathy for animals at such a young age? Because I know at that age, like, kids aren't worried about that. They aren't worried about, like, you know what I mean? It's just like, whatever the mainstream ideas are is what a 16-year-old thinks about in this like Kali Yuga, so it's really interesting.
It's a good point, because I think it's two answers to that. One is there is a karma or a destiny that we have. We're picking up things from a previous life. My daughter's sitting next to me, and she's 15, and she's really into animal rights and caring for animals and loving animals. So in one sense, it's her karma. She was born into a family that doesn't eat it. So that's good karma. But it's also the company she keeps, because the company we keep, that creates our future choices. Even if you were born in a very spiritual family, you could just say, I'm not into this. And that happens a lot due to the company we keep. So there's two things in our life. One is that good or bad karma that we were born with, and how and then it's what we do with what we've got. that starts to create our next step. I do think that there might have been some inclination for it in a previous life, because like you said, most 16-year-olds are just trying to like forget about everything. And I was sort of like trying to be conscious, and I became a monk at 22. And I was like over the idea of like sleeping around or getting drunk or getting wasted. And that's usually 22. That's when it all starts, at least.
Yeah, that's the climax.
That's the climax. There's the high. My body's working. My body's I can eat anything. My body still looks pretty good. You know, for me, it was like, it saved me from a reckless life of my 20s. But not only just saved me, I was actually materially exhausted at 22. So even any success I had with music, I was like, I needed to understand how material success can't give me what my heart actually wants. And that was sort of a blessing. That success was a blessing, because it made me realize this isn't it. There must be something greater than this.
Well, I guess the big thing is like, to someone who is eating meat, yet they don't necessarily advocate for the abuse of animals or how we're treating the planet or anything like that. The question is, why are you doing so then? Because to me, it all goes back to essentially flavor, because if it tasted bad, that would wipe out a lot of the people who eat it.
Right.
And it kind of brings it back to controlling the senses and controlling your own mind, and the path of spirituality or the yogic path or whatever you want to call it. It's about controlling the senses that can make a fool out of anybody.
Yeah.
And
I started realizing that in the middle of youth of today, that the real goal here is to control my senses. And that's what really makes a man, so to speak.
100%.
Truthfully, it makes a boy a man. If a man can start to control his senses. If he can't, they become like a fool. Mm-hmm. Even in an adult body, they just act like a bunch of children. Mm-hmm. So that's the most important thing. I think it's the biggest protest we can ever do, is the protest against our own senses owning us. It's very easy to go out and protest against the world. But truthfully, it has the ability to create a crooked thinking. A thinking like the world is wrong, but I'm great. Mm-hmm. And you got to be careful about that in spiritual life. Is I've got to take note about my shortcomings and not fine tune how I see the shortcomings of the entire world. That's what we become expert at. Where she is off, and where he is off, and where the president is off, and where the Biden's off, and we're always trying to find where everybody else is off. But we're very rarely turning that microscope on me and finding, where am I off? What could I do to improve the quality of my life and the quality of the environment and the quality of the world? And I think that's the biggest. That is the biggest rebellion. That is the biggest protest that should be going on. And when we start to worry about ourselves, it's not like then we'll just live in a little box in peace. It's not true, because we're all part of this world. When I start to radically change myself, the world changes. This isn't just spirituality talking now. Mm-hmm. This is like any even Western therapist. You know, if I go to a therapist and say, yeah, my wife is driving me crazy, and my wife did this to me, and my wife has a drinking problem, and my wife is, cheating on me, and my wife, a good therapist will say, oh yeah? And what do you do? A good therapist won't say, yeah, your wife is a jerk. A good therapist will say, what's your responsibility in this? And a therapist will always bring it back to, what is your responsibility? You think the world's a mess? What's your responsibility in this? Mm-hmm. You know? And generally, any thoughtful people, the Greeks, the Indians, they'll say things like, the best way to persuade people is to live by example. That's the best way to persuade people. And as we persuade, we do it with love, not with hate. If we really want to change the world, we change. For example, suppose you have a vicious, I'm not even saying the world is great. I'm saying you see some things that are horrible out there. It's just like you're dealing with a vicious dog. Sometimes you go to a pound and you want to adopt a dog, and the guy will say, this dog's not good with children. I said, why? The dog was beaten. The dog's very upset. He bites everybody. Okay, so what should we do? So you bring the dog home. He starts biting. He starts tearing up your house. What do you do to that dog? You beat him? You don't beat a mean dog to get it to be nice. you love the dog.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to beat love into everybody, and everybody hates each other now. We've created so much hate in the name of trying to be more loving and caring and conscious and not. It's so sad. What we really want is love, and we've created a lot more hate because we think we've got all the answers. But you know what? The sages have always had the answers to this, and we want to improve the world. We do it by becoming more loving ourselves. And it really works. It really, really works. I look at it. Do you mind if I just keep rolling with this?
Keep it going. Keep it going.
Okay. I just look at it, when I was young, we were really into animal rights. And I saw two streams of people getting into animal rights. One, this like very violent, direct action group. And I could appreciate them because there's some really horrible things out there. And I had friends in both camps. Then there were people like more into spiritual things. They stopped they stopped eating meat, start to work on their own self, saw vegetarianism as a facet of their bigger picture of themselves. And just as a witness, I started to notice the people who were just like hardcore animal rights activists, a lot of them, maybe not all of them, became incredibly angry people, incredibly hateful people. It created others. It was a lot of binary thinking, us versus them. And I realized at that point, I don't want to be like this. Is this a goal to have some type of justice for the animals, but I'm just like a hateful, bitter person now? So I thought there must be a complete whole, what is the word I'm looking for? It's sort of like a full spectrum improvement of the world. And I'm part of that spectrum. If I want the world to change, I want to also I want to be in on that too, because I want to change my consciousness. I don't want to become a hateful person. I don't want to just fine tune all the problems out there. And that's all I can think of. I think about the climate, and I think about the earth and the water tables and what's going on. And I think about the commercial farming, and then I think about the organic farming. And even if they're doing organic farming, they're still, killing so many things just to, to plow and etc. with tractors, and they start to worry about fossil fuels, and it just never ends. And you could just spin out of control, fine-tuned on what is wrong. And if the goal is just to worry about what's wrong, better to figure out what can I do for myself that's right, and then from there work from there. And so that's always been the spiritual trajectory. Mm-hmm. Can you get that cat, honey? It's always been the spiritual trajectory is do my self-work first. And so much good will come from that. And going back to that original analogy with the husband and the wife, that's how you're going to change the marriage too. Mm-hmm. You work on yourself. I'm not going to change my wife by nagging on her. You better change this and this and this and this. Even if you have kids and you want to change your kids, nagging the kids is not working. Beating the kids is not working.
In a sense, it would be easier to change yourself than change every single person in every single situation in the world around you. But on the other side of the coin, it is very difficult to know your own faults. Some Chinese philosophy book that I have talks about how if you know your own faults, then that's the definition of a sage. And going back to a different interview where you were talking about how pretty much let me see, I got it right here. Let me pull it up. You talked about how the Giva or the spirit must go through 8 elements to leave the material universe. The first one being earth, and the 8th and the hardest one being the ego, which means controlling your own self is much harder than controlling others around you. Maybe you could be a leader, or maybe you could be a dictator, and you in a sense control hundreds and thousands of people around you, but maybe you can't even control your own lustful desires, and that could lead to your own downfall or whatever it may be.
I love that you're thinking like this at 20. You're 22?
24.
24. It's so good to hear people that are 24 thinking like this.
Well, you know what it is, man? It's well, first of all, thank you. And second of all, it's
you know why, Angel? You're Angel, right? Or are you Angel?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know why, Angel? Because everyone's talking about like we treat women with equality and equal rights for everybody. And they talk a good talk. But truthfully, it's up to them controlling their own senses.
Yeah.
Because once a person, let's talk about men right here. Once a man is possessed by lust, you don't love women anymore. You see them as a commodity.
Yes.
And that, if you want to talk about sexism, that's the most sexist thing you could do. So before anybody opens their mouth about women, especially men, about equality to women and treat women with equal rights, I want you to zip up your pants and put a lock on it and learn how to control your lower chakras, or else you're just talking out your ass to try to impress people. So you can actually objectify a woman and see them as a thing for your enjoyment, because lust makes you depersonalize a being and seeing them as an object. And it's that simple. If you really want to learn to love a person, lust can't be in the equation. That's from the Bible. It's from the teachings of the East. But truthfully, it's just common sense. It's just common sense. There's a difference between love and lust. Lust means I want it because I'm a little selfish right now. Whereas love means I'm here to give this person something special because I care for them. And I'll bend over back. I'll jump through hoops, whatever they need to take care of them. And I think it's another thing with men especially. They have to figure out the difference between love and lust.
Yes.
I met a guy once, I haven't seen him in 25 years. We were friends when we were teenagers. And I said, so what's up, man? Are you, are you married? Do you have any kids? And his response was so sad. He just said, oh man, I can't get married. I love women too much. And I thought to myself, this guy never grew up. He loves them like a lion loves a lamb. He doesn't love them in the sense, I'm here to give to this person. I'm here to care. Like he missed out on love. He skipped that boat. He skipped that whole like evolutionary process and is still in a little boy stage where he just likes switching partners so much, and he wants to not love them. He wants to consume them. That's a whole different beast.
Yeah, and one of the Upanishads that I have, it talks about how to reach the human form, it takes 8 million reincarnations or something along those lines.
8,432,000.
Yeah, and it's pretty much it's like consciousness embodied in the physical. But in my opinion, one of the main things that separates human from the rest of all the other species is refined conscious thought and rational thought, and being able to act outside of your carnal impulses, and pretty much it's just control over the senses. If you give
sort of the reason why, that's why we don't mess with drugs or alcohol. It's like, because then that very, very important gift you have, you can keep it to refine your choices. The people who drink, they have this thing called beer goggles. They put on, you drink so much, like everybody looks good. It's not everybody looks good because you're loving and filled with joy and care. Everybody looks good because you're so pathetically desperate, and you just want to. You'll take anything for your own selfish desires. So yeah, it's the most refined thing we can do, is to start to control our senses and our mind.
But speaking of like drugs and alcohol, what's your take on psychedelics in their relation to spirituality? What would you say about that? Like in terms of like ayahuasca rituals and like psilocybin that have like helped people connect with a higher power,
I think that I don't think you have to go there to get God. I do think that they do have an effect and can help some people, but they can also hurt people. Like I had a best friend that took LSD and he just jumped in front of a train because he realized, like, he was like 17 years old. We were good friends, and he was 17 years old, and he thought, life is temporary. Well, that's a true realization. Life is temporary. So I'm just going to end it right now. I also personally think you're opening yourself up, your subtle body, to all types of instructions, and not necessarily all from God. because there's other beings out there. I'm not making this up just because it's Ray Cappo's like mystery hour of ghouls and ghosts and stuff like that. But I definitely the Vedas teach that there are higher beings, just like Christians, Jews call demons, or the New Testament talks about demons and angels. But the Vedas go through. They actually give names to different species of subtle beings. And sometimes they're benevolent, and sometimes they're very dark and malevolent. And when you open up your, perhaps, I'm not sure, but perhaps when you screw around with these psychedelics, you're opening yourself up to be influenced by these other beings. Not just psychedelics, I think intoxicants as well. So I think it depends on your consciousness. That's why there's the concept of a bad trip, where not a lot of great spiritual insight comes from it. So do I think they're completely evil? No. It probably depends on whose hands they are in, and I guess the result of what happens to it. If it brings you to a higher place, then it's a good thing. But I wouldn't want to rely on an external thing for my spiritual realization. I believe it can just come from between me and God. Mm-hmm. And I think if there is a God in the sky somewhere, I don't have to ingest something to find it. Because what if I'm in a prison, or if I'm in a place where that it doesn't grow, or I'm not obsolete? I don't think a benevolent, loving force would make me have to, digest something out of my reach.
So to change topics real quick, you lived as a monk for 6 years, but you left when you were 22 years old. Yeah. Why did you leave at 22? What was going through your head when you decided, fuck this, I'm going to become a monk?
I think it was like a series of many things that happened in my life. I was always sort of felt like I was on a spiritual path, but I had some material hopes and desires, and even like a material calling to do good work in the world. But I got to the point where I realized even the good work has a limit, because it's not just cleaning up the gross things. You got to clean up the subtle things. Just like with a car, you don't just want to wash the outside of the car. You got to make sure the engine's running good too. So externally, I was healthy. Externally, I was popular. Externally, I was I had some money. I could make money doing music. Externally, I even had a side job at a vegetarian restaurant. And externally, I reasonably good people in my life. But internally, I was troubled because the fame part of it, I couldn't handle how to deal with fame. Popularity, I couldn't handle how to deal with popularity. Wealth, or money, I couldn't handle. All these things are like energies. And unless you know how to hold onto that energy and use them where it makes you grow and makes you whole and makes you connected, then these energies can be useful. But if you don't know how to use them, those energies start to burn you out. And I'm sure you know people who've ruined their life, not just from being in a desperate situation, but some people ruin their life becoming successful. Some people ruin their life not because they can't get a girlfriend, but because girls are in love with them. Like some guys who are just like so gorgeous that they feel like they become almost sex addicts because of it. So people ruin their lives with good fortune, not just misery. And then, of course, when we do have a lot of good fortune, we start to realize, actually, no matter how fortunate I am, I'm not getting a pass on pain, but even devastating pain. So for me, I had good fortune, and I realized that the material good fortune, it wasn't what it's cracked up to be. And on the flip side, a stable figure in my life, my father, he had died. He went through a 3-year sickness and then died unexpectedly. So it was a little devastating to realize the material world can't protect you from death. And he wasn't that old. He was like 10 years older than me now. So I thought, the material world is not protecting my father. What makes me think I can't die like my father just died? And then I start to think, what do I actually want from the material world anyway? Like, what's the goal with all this? To become the super duper star, straight edge. And then what? And then everybody's straight edge. That would be a nice thing. Everybody's vegetarian. That's a nice thing. What if people are still greedy? What if people are still angry? What if people are still lusty? What if people are still, you know what I mean? There's so many things that you can be straight edge and still be a total asshole, still be a total narcissist, still be not using your critical thinking. So I started to think, like, before I even take another step, it was such a big thing, recently people were saying, silence means complicity. Remember that? Silence. You don't say anything that means you're being complicit. And I always thought, really? What about thinking? What about just like you're thinking about stuff? A lot of big stuff has happened. Why don't we start thinking about, like, okay, why do these things happen? What's the best way to go about change? I don't think silence always means you're complicit. It means you're going deep and starting to think deeply about what is my best course of action. Just like if you come up the street and you just push me. So to do nothing, I'm not trying to be complicit. I just want to think, well, how should I react here? Should I hit him back? Should I tackle him? Should I call a cop? Should I run for my life?
Should I use my Gracie Jiu-Jitsu?
Should I give him a heel hook? So it's one of these things, like, we got to think about these things before we act. So I was at this point where, like, who do I want to become in this world? Who do I want to become? Like, where am I going? If I stay on this trajectory, where will I be? And do I want to be that? And I started realizing I don't want to be that. And I need to pause my life and my band and my friends and my family and just sort of make a cut. I'm not recommending you do that. Mm-hmm. But it's what I had to do. I had to do it.
When you moved to India, you were no AC when it was cold. I mean, when it was hot, no heat when it was cold. You had, if it was cold, you'd take cold showers. If it was hot, you'd take hot showers. There's no TV, nothing to purchase. How was that?
It was, you realize how comfortable and how we sort of like, what do you want, truth or comfort? I wrote that song, the old Shelter song, in the name of comfort. Mm-hmm. Like, sometimes we'll compromise our entire integrity just to be a little comfortable. So it was good. It made you realize, do you want this? If you really want it, this is what you're going to have to do to get it. And it put me in a situation where my senses could not get satisfied. And therefore you become a little like, you strip away all like the pleasures of the material world. And that's what being a monk is. There's nothing else to take shelter in. So two things happen. You either become very miserable and sort of like hop the fence, so to speak, and I've seen that happen, or you start to figure out, okay, what is this ashram teaching for meditation techniques? How can I find an inner peace? I'm not getting it from shopping. Shopping was fun. I'm not getting it from Amazon. I'm not getting it from like, stuff in my face with whatever, or drinking or party or going out or going to restaurants. That's how we traditionally get fun. Once you take all those things away, how do I find happiness? And that's really an art of living, because if I could figure out how to be happy with nothing, I've sort of cracked the code of the safe of life.
But like the thing is what me personally, what I'm dealing with in a way is, I know there's a path out there to follow, the true path that sheds all this materialism, sheds all this like shallow, sense pleasures and all this stuff. But I live in a city, New York City, which I feel like is the most condensed area where all this stuff is just bombarding me everywhere I go, so
it's overwhelming, man.
It's a war, like every single day, like to deal with everything. Like it's a constant reminder. I'm like in constant like meditation, no matter where I am, to remind myself of stay on it, balance, stay on it, and it's a lot. And I just wanted to ask you honestly, like, what are your thoughts of like following the path while living in a city, in a major city, with all this going on?
That's a great question. You have to be very, very connected to good people.
Yeah.
You know why? Because it's got too many options of illusion.
Yeah.
Too many options of illusion for illusion. And for a person on the spiritual path, there's nothing exciting about the city any longer. Big deal. It's all about your economic status or your ego status. So eventually people on a spiritual path, they get out of the city, or they find a community of people that are doing great work within a city. Because that's a great thing about, like, I just did a program on the rooftop of the Bhakti Center last Saturday. I wish you guys were there. I would have loved to meet you.
For sure.
But
Next time.
it was, huh?
I said,
Yeah, it was
next time for sure.
Yeah.
okay, cool. Well, it was a great community of people, and because it was in the city, they got together really easy like that. And
I seen that on your Instagram page. I believe you guys chanting and dancing and the music, and it looks really amazing.
it is amazing. It's totally amazing. Matter of fact, they have this great place on 25 First Avenue. They have an incredible community. Now, I don't have like a huge community out here because I live in the sticks, but and I got to travel to do stuff. Actually, we have a little village community, but in the city, it's like a massive community. Last time I was there in like February or something, this incredible kirtan, with incredible diverse people coming together in sincere focus and dedication to divinity. It was like beautiful to witness and be a part of. And I think like, this is why the city's useful, So it's extra hard unless you have that community. And community is there for us on a spiritual path to give us accountability, to help us step up. And so we can pull people up when we're feeling strong and people are feeling down. Part of my life is pulling people up. And then part of my life is reaching up to get pulled up because I'm feeling down. And so you're going to find yourself in a position. And that's what I see both of you guys. And I was like, this is what real friendship is actually. When it's based on something more subtle than this guy just makes me laugh. But he's making me laugh, but I'm degraded from it. There's degrading laughter. And then there's uplifting laughter and joyous laughter. So we want to surround ourselves with people that lift us up.
And it's almost like, I'm sorry to cut you off.
It's okay. I just keep talking, man.
No, it's okay. It's just because before I met Angel, for example, like I was in a position where I did have friends where, like you said, it was just degrading laughter, shallow conversation, just like not getting out, not knowing, but like it was always inside of me, just waiting to come out, this like life and like genuine passion and like tears and everything. Just I want to feel like I'm existing. I don't want to just feel like just having these stupid, and I would consider that friendship, you consider that companions, you consider this, but I feel like as long as you like just try to stick with it no matter what, it like manifests, like people come out and they start joining your life that have a similar mindset. And it's very interesting looking back how these things just come together.
You start attracting different people into your life, and witnessing you guys is actually very inspirational. And on this path that I'm on, a Bhakti spiritual path, we don't say, okay, become like Mr. Spock from the Star Trek, where you have no emotions and you're free from emotions and desires and passions. Desires, passions, they're normal, and laughter is normal, and joy is normal and healthy, and dancing is normal and healthy, but it's the why behind it. So I love to laugh. I find myself laughing all the time. But it's not at someone else's expense. It's not to degrade my own consciousness. I just made a certain choice, and I feel like you guys are like there doing it. I see myself in both of you guys. Is you just get to a certain point where like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do what you guys are doing anymore. I want more out of my life, And some people, I'm at 54 years old right now. So some people I look back and they're on Facebook and they're the same kids I knew in high school. And they're still just like they were in high school, and they just never let go of that. So I think these are huge things, and sometimes it requires a massive departure of who I was. At least that's what I had to do. I had to make a massive departure of who I was, and to do like a restart and almost to recreate myself. Mm-hmm. And I let go of everything to do it. Some people are a little bit more gradual and they're more balanced. I wasn't balanced. I was more of an extremist. I was like, all right, this part of my life is completely over. But I needed it, Mm-hmm. Like sometimes an alcoholic needs to say, I don't go to bars anymore, period. Like, oh, big deal. We're just going to walk in a bar. You don't have to drink anything. No, I don't go to bars. Sometimes you need to draw a line in the sand. I think on my spiritual path, I was like, I'm out of here. I'm going to India. Goodbye. I quit the band.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like you said, it's I don't know if you said it on this one or another one, but everything is a practice. And if you look at life from a viewpoint that it's all about fun, then like you said, you might hate 50% of your life because not everything is fun. But if you look at life from a viewpoint of it's about perfecting yourself, obviously you cannot reach perfection, but just perfecting the self that you have of yesterday into a better version of yourself today, then even whether it be a loved one passing away or you having a crazy disease or something like that, or just even just something normal like waiting for the train and it's not coming on time and you find yourself getting aggravated, you can use all of these to better yourself, because it's through the biggest suffering that you have that, at least me personally, through the biggest sufferings I've had, always bring me to the biggest realizations of
The biggest breakthroughs.
yeah, exactly. The biggest breakthroughs, most importantly, mentally, the biggest mental breakthroughs of, if you break things down, something I like to do is think, if something bad happens, I think to myself, what could I have done to stop this? If the answer is nothing physically and all would just have to be changing my mindset on things, and that's where I know that I have some sort of meditation that I got to do, because if not, then I'm just on a neutral plane of not improving and not, you know what I mean?
It's beautiful. Did you listen to that Joe Rogan interview I did?
Yes.
I told that story about me getting attacked and beat up really bad. And in retrospect, I'm not going to pray to get beat up again. But in retrospect, it was the most spiritual experience of my life. You know, it was like such a blessing. Wouldn't trade it in for the world. I found myself like in deep meditation, spiritually connected more than I've ever been connected. I felt like I was like free from the pain of it. And I felt like connected to God as I was getting pounded in the head with a baseball bat.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like the most spiritual experience of my life. And I reflect on it back with fond memories. Mm-hmm. I have another friend, a spiritual practitioner, and he's a father, and probably about 10 years younger than me, but still that's a young man, and father of 2 little children. And he's just got diagnosed with some serious heavy cancer. And when I hear him speak, and he's very serious about his spiritual path, I could just see he's refining his spiritual intelligence now. I just see this man go through such a change. Like everything he knew, just like you and I were all on a spiritual path, and it's good, and there's challenge. But now I can see, like, when it's put into these great moments of challenge, he started to dig into and refine that spiritual intelligence. And whether he survives or doesn't survive, I think that great catastrophe of cancer is going to probably be one of the biggest blessings for his spiritual evolution, because he's seeing it with spiritual goggles. Now, this is different for people who believe like we're just here for this life, because it's all for the good means no sense. If you're here, what are you talking about? You're going to leave your wife, you're going to die, your wife's going to be alone, your kids are going to be alone. What do you mean it's all good? It's not all good. Now it's miserable. But if life is eternal and there is a benevolent hand in everything, then leaving your body in spiritual consciousness is the goal of life. And it's the perfection of your marriage and of your friendships and of your parenting, and then it's, if the wife, I'm using this situation, it's going to be anybody's situation. If the wife is alive, then yeah, she'll have to dig deeper to take care of 2 kids and to find, or maybe remarry, or, to find a person in their life that is, that can lift her up, or that she can have a spiritual partnership, or that she just says, you know what, life is temporary. I lost my husband. I'm going deep inside now to find connection and give connection to these 2 children of mine. And it could be the thing that saves her spiritual life is having someone that she loves leave her. So there is benevolence in even disaster. Mm-hmm. We're not abandoned. This isn't happening to us randomly. And it's hard to forget that, because it seems like the world is random. There is life and death and good fortune. And that guy gets whatever he wants, and it wasn't fair. And it's not fair. I've done so much. It's all perfect. And there is benevolence behind all actions that come to us. Yeah. And it's sometimes hard to see with the material lens, in the same way a teenager getting chastised by the parent saying, you can't take the car tonight because you never finished that exam, or you never did any studying. And the teenager cannot see. What are you talking about? How dare you? All my friends are going out. It's completely not fair. You know, no matter how you explain it, the child can't see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, just real quick before we go, because I know you had until 2:45, I just wanted to say that it reminds me when John Joseph was here, he was talking about how we are not this material body, we're the spirit soul. And it's not that we aren't a body who has a soul. We are a soul that has a body. So whether
that's your way to look at it, isn't it?
Even death itself, you know what I mean? The physical body is dying, and then you will, if you believe in that or whatever you believe in, but according to the Vedas, is you will reincarnate into something else. So it's like it's almost it's a freeing thought, one. And then, well,
whether we believe it or not, the body's dying.
Mm-hmm.
And whether we believe it or not, we're witnessing it dying.
Yep.
Like I witnessed my 5-year-old body die, my 10-year-old body die, my 25-year-old body die. We've even witnessed our subtle body die. Like I remember my 25-year-old ego or my 18-year-old ego. I'm sure you guys can remember when you're 18 years old. It was different than when you are now. You've witnessed it change. So if you've witnessed it change, who are you that's doing the witnessing? So we are experiencing reincarnation right now, right? I'm looking at your guys' faces, and you guys remind me of me being in the hardcore scene at young ages. And I'm looking at my own face in the Zoom screen like, oh man, you're such an old bastard compared to these young kids. And I'm thinking, oh man, what happened to my face? But that's the deal. I'm watching reincarnation happen with my own body. And then I'll leave this body. And then the body will just rot. But there's consciousness behind it all. So while we're here, we got to hear important information and then put that information to practice. When we hear knowledge, that's good. But when we put it to practice, that becomes wisdom. Yeah. We want wisdom when we're working in this world so we can separate ourselves at this greatest challenge we'll have, which is leaving the body.
And I think planting seeds is also very important, especially in this age with people, like just being who you are, and they notice how this is, and they take their inspiration. Because I've talked to people, especially in particular, about veganism or just vegetarianism, whatever. I spoke to a friend I had, and he said that he just said that, like, I'm one person, how can I change that whole industry? It doesn't matter, I can't make a change. So, but I told him that with one person, that's how it starts, by planting a seed, and that's it grows and grows and grows. So.
It's just like people look up to you, and we don't live in a bubble or a vacuum or on an island. When you change, people notice you, and they'd be like, what is he doing? That seems cool. I want to do that. I mean, come on, we're part of this world. You want to change the world, change yourself. We say learn it, live it, and then give it. So first we got to learn it. And then we got to, okay, that makes sense. Now I want to apply it. And once you apply it, then you want to give it to other people. That's part of it. But it's not going to work. I can't just jump right to give it. I have to learn it and live it. So you guys are doing a great job by giving it. Good job. I'm very impressed.
Thank you so much for being willing to come on the show, man.
Keep up the good work.
I hope to hopefully meet you soon one day. If there's anything going on, I'll give you a follow on Instagram, and then I'm really trying to be a part of whatever kind of positive community is going down, whether it be, cooking for the hungry. I also want to learn Ayurvedic cooking eventually.
It's very interesting stuff, man. Yeah. My friend Divya runs a restaurant in New York City, Divya's Kitchen.
Okay.
And she's awesome.
Okay. I'll definitely check it out.
Courses. She teaches at the Bhakti Center sometimes too, on 25 First Avenue. That's a super cool community that I go down and I'm part of whenever I can too. So hopefully I'll see you there sometime.
Yeah, we're gonna check it out. All right. Thanks, man.
Keep up the good work. Let me know when this comes out.
Yeah, for sure. Peace.
Okay, brother. All right,
Peace.